All right, so let's jump right in. Today, we're revisiting the Gypsy-Rose Blanchard case,
Okay.
but this time with kind of a different angle.
Okay.
I recently saw this People magazine article, and they were talking about Gypsy Rose's like dental transformation.
Oh, wow.
They even called it the best glow up,
Oh, interesting.
and they had these before and after photos.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty striking.
It is. It's more than just like a makeover, though, right?
Right.
To like really get the significance. We have to remember everything that she went through.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anyone who needs a refresher,
Yeah.
Gypsy Rose was the victim of Munchausen syndrome by proxy,
Right.
which is really a form of abuse.
Yeah.
And her mother, Dee Dee, was the one who orchestrated it all.
And it's all about the perpetrator,
Right.
which in this case was DD,
Right.
fabricating or exaggerating illnesses.
Yeah.
To get attention and sympathy.
Mhm.
And for Gypsy Rose, this meant undergoing a bunch of procedures
Yeah.
that were not necessary at all.
Tot-
And some of them were extreme.
Like having her salivary glands removed
Oh, yeah.
and multiple teeth pulled.
Wow.
And she didn't even have any of the conditions that they said she did.
Wow.
So seeing her smile now, it's like she's finally getting the dental care
It is.
that she should have had years ago.
It's almost like a physical manifestation of the abuse
Right.
getting erased,
Yeah.
like the silver teeth and the missing teeth were a constant reminder, of Dee Dee's control over her.
Yeah.
So getting them fixed, it's not just cosmetic. It's like she's reclaiming her smile,
Yes.
taking it back.
And when you read her comment on the dental office's Instagram post,
Oh, yeah.
you can almost feel the weight lift.
Yeah.
She said, and I quote,
Okay.
"I cannot thank you enough for the best glow up I could ever dream of."
That's so powerful.
It is.
It really is like the heart of all of this.
Yeah.
And remember back in December of last year,
Mm.
she did an interview
Yeah.
and she described the salivary gland removal.
Oh, God. As the most painful and unnecessary procedure
Oh, wow.
that she had to endure.
So to be able to just smile freely
I know.
without that physical reminder
Yeah.
must be just incredible.
It must be incredibly liberating.
Yes, it's like she's finally free to express herself, authentically without DD
Yeah.
and all of that manipulation hanging over her.
It's like Dee Dee's gone and she's free.
Right, and this actually isn't the only procedure that she's had recently.
Oh, really?
She also had a rhinoplasty back in April.
Huh. Interesting.
So it seems like she's really focused on these cosmetic procedures.
Yeah, so it seems like she's taking control of her body and her appearance.
Which is amazing.
It is.
After all those years of being denied that.
It is incredible.
But I also wonder,
Yeah.
is there more to this?
Yeah. What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, after all of the medical manipulation, could these procedures be like a way of healing?
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
That is a really insightful observation.
Yeah. It's definitely a possibility.
Yeah.
Think about it. For years, her body wasn't really her own.
Right.
It was like a canvas for all of Dee Dee's lies.
Exactly.
So these procedures could be a way for her to redefine her relationship with her body.
Right.
And finally, shape it in a way that she wants.
It's like she's saying, this is my body now.
Exactly.
And I get to decide what it looks like and feels like.
Yes, and that can be so empowering.
Totally.
For someone who's been through that.
Yeah.
That level of manipulation that she has. It's about taking control, but it's also about self-discovery.
Right.
And maybe even like a form of therapy.
Right. And she actually talked about being teased for her nose.
Oh, really?
In that same interview where she talked about the anxiety from the rhinoplasty.
Mm-hmm.
She said that people on social media would call her the nose.
Oh, wow.
And that the surgery made her feel like the woman she wants to become.
So that brings in another layer to all of this. The impact of all these beauty standards and the pressure to conform.
Especially with social media.
Especially now,
It's like she's navigating two journeys at the same time.
Yeah. What are those?
Healing from the trauma.
Right.
But also finding her place in a world that judges you based on how you look.
Absolutely. And that intersection is where it gets really interesting.
Totally.
It's definitely a lot to think about.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's even more interesting when you consider that she's being so open about all of this.
Right.
Like she's sharing all these before and after photos on Instagram.
Oh, wow.
And responding to comments and stuff.
It's like she's letting everyone in.
It is.
On this really personal journey.
It's so different from how things used to be.
Totally.
Like cosmetic procedures used to be something people kept quiet about.
Yeah, they were like taboo.
Exactly.
But now with social media, it's like everyone's sharing.
It's almost like a celebration of these transformations.
And for her, she's reclaiming the narrative.
Yes.
Not just of her body, but of her whole story.
Exactly. And she's doing it on her own terms.
Right.
Which is so powerful.
It is, especially for someone who wasn't allowed to speak for so long.
But for her, that's got to be incredibly powerful to finally have that control.
Absolutely.
I can even see how that could be part of the healing process.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like she's saying, I'm not ashamed of this.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to hide anymore.
She's owning her story.
Yeah.
Her choices.
And she's making us rethink what we think about beauty and health.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it makes you think about how much we judge people.
I know, right?
Especially when it comes to how they look.
Yeah, like we make these snap judgments.
Without knowing the whole story.
Exactly. And everyone has their own story.
Right.
Their own journey and their own reasons for wanting to change.
And those reasons are usually a lot deeper than we realize.
So much deeper.
So if we kind of zoom out a little, what are some key takeaways for our listeners?
Well, I think the biggest one is empathy.
Yeah.
And understanding. Like we can't assume we know why someone makes the choices they do.
Especially about their bodies.
Right. And especially with cosmetic surgery.
Because everyone heals differently.
Exactly.
What works for one person might not work for another.
And judging someone for how they choose to heal.
Right.
That can be really damaging.
Totally. And another big takeaway is that power of reclaiming your narrative.
Oh, yeah.
Like Gypsy-Rose's story was controlled for so long.
By so many people.
But now she's taking back control.
And it's so powerful for anyone who's ever felt silenced.
Because we all have the right to tell our own stories and make choices that feel right to us.
I think it's safe to say.
Yeah.
This deep dive has been really insightful.
It really has. I've had to think about things in a whole new way.
Me too.
Especially about how I judge people.
It's all about empathy and understanding.
And respecting how people choose to heal. Yeah, it's given me a lot to think about too. And before we wrap up, is there anything else we should mention?
You know, it's interesting to think about how these cosmetic procedures fit into the bigger picture.
Okay.
Like, how do they relate to her reclaiming her body and her identity after all of this trauma?
That's a good point.
It makes you think about all the different ways that people cope with and heal from these experiences.
Yeah, like maybe the physical changes are a way for them to feel in control again.
Right.
After feeling powerless for so long.
Exactly. It's not about vanity. It's about having agency. Like, I get to decide how my body looks.
Right.
And that's incredibly powerful for someone like Gypsy-Rose.
Because it was taken from her for so long.
For so many years.
And what about social media?
Oh, yeah, that's a whole other thing.
Because on the one hand, it creates these crazy beauty standards that make people feel bad about themselves.
But it can also be a place where people share their stories and connect with others who've been through similar things.
So it's kind of like a double-edged sword.
It really is.
But for Gypsy-Rose, it seems like she's using it in a positive way.
Yeah, she's sharing her story and connecting with people who get it.
And challenging those beauty standards just by being herself.
Exactly.
It's pretty inspiring.
It is.
To see her embracing this transformation so publicly.
And encouraging others to do the same.
It's like a reminder that there's no right way to heal.
And no right way to look.
Or...
This whole deep dive has been a real eye-opener for me.
Me too.
It's made me think about things differently.
And the biggest takeaway for me is to be more understanding.
Yeah.
And to respect that everyone's journey is different.
Absolutely.
So that's our deep dive into Gypsy-Rose Blanchard's transformation.
And what it means to reclaim yourself.
After going through something so traumatic.
We hope you enjoyed it.
And that it gave you some things to think about.
And maybe even inspired you.
Thanks for joining us.
And keep the conversation going.